Gather close, my students. Look past the steel and glass of the city you think you know. The year is 1609. Breathe it in. The air doesn't smell of exhaust, but of ancient oak, salt-crusted marsh, and a silence so deep it rings in your ears. This is Mannahatta, a land of many hills, a sacred cathedral of green where the Atlantic's pulse meets the sweet, cool breath of the interior. It is a world of absolute primeval stillness. But look at the horizon. Do you see that flicker of white canvas? That is the ghost of a world about to vanish. Even as we speak, in the cold counting houses of Amsterdam, men who have never seen this beauty are carving it into pieces on a map. The heavy, rhythmic thud of an iron anchor is about to strike the seabed like a gavel, and the silence of 1,000 years is about to be shattered forever. By the dawn of the 17th century, the Atlantic was no longer a barrier. It was a hungry highway. Dutch Republic, a titan fueled by the cold fire of commerce, wasn't looking for a new world. They were looking for a shortcut to gold. What they found instead was a gateway that would change the DNA of humanity. This wasn't just a settlement, my friends. It was a laboratory. A place where the ancient stewardship of the Lenape first collided with the relentless machinery of colonial property. Here, the first enslaved Africans were brought to haul the very stones of a city built on the restless movement of capital. It is a story of triumph, yes, but one etched in scars that New York still wears today. How do I bring you there? Not through fairy tales, but through the truth. By layering original Dutch West India Company maps and the frantic, ink-stained notarial records of the New Amsterdam archives over our digital world, we are resurrecting a lost reality. We aren't just observing, we are stepping into the mud of the Hira Strait. We are feeling the rough grain of the timber palisades exactly as the clerks recorded them. The ghosts are waiting. Let us begin our descent. We are at the mouth of the great Noordrivier. For the Lenape, this is living land, mapped in spirit and song. But then, the Halve Main noses through the mist. On deck, Henry Hudson doesn't see a sanctuary. He sees a ledger. You can almost smell it, the sharp tang of ship's tar and wet wool clashing with the sweet, intoxicating perfume of the virgin forest. For the Dutch, this is a path to the Orient. For the land, it is a wound that will never heal. The door has opened, and it will never, ever be closed again. 16 years vanish. We stand at the island's tip. Fort Amsterdam is rising, a jagged crown of timber and earth. Feel the weight of those beams. They were hauled through the freezing mud by soldiers and enslaved laborers alike. This fortress wasn't just for protection. It was an corporate fist clenched around the fur trade. But as the walls grew higher, a terrifying tension began to pulse from the tree line, where the original inhabitants watched their world being fenced away. Walk with me to the Gentleman's Street. The houses here have stepped gables, a desperate attempt to mimic the canals of home. The air is thick with peat smoke and the frantic clatter of wooden shoes on hard-packed dirt. Here, a dozen languages collide: Dutch, German, French, all whispered in the pursuit of profit. This is the heartbeat of a marketplace that will one day span the globe, where a man's religion mattered less than the balance of his ledger. Yet, beneath the talk of beaver pelts and grain, a much darker trade was taking root at the water's edge, a trade in human lives. Northward now, to the Boweries. In the shimmering heat of August, these fields are the colony's lifeblood. You can hear the rhythmic, exhausting knock of hoes as African laborers toil under a sun that feels like a weight. This is where the European dream of owning the earth was first carved into the Manhattan soil. The Dutch believed they had mastered the land, but the earth was preparing to reclaim itself in a way that would leave the colony trembling. The air turns brittle and cold. It is 1643. Kieft's war has turned the landscape into a nightmare. The scent of burned thatch hangs heavy in the air, and the screams of the night have been replaced by a silence that is far more terrifying. This is the true face of a colony built on greed, but maintained by the sword. For both colonist and native, the forest has become a graveyard, and the survival of New Amsterdam now hangs by a single, fraying thread. We stand at the northern edge in 1653 before a wall of timber and earth. It was built by the hands of the enslaved to define the limits of civilization. To the townspeople, it was a shield. To those outside, it was a scar across the face of the island. But the greatest threat to the Dutch wasn't hiding in the woods behind the wall. It was watching them from the masts of ships on the horizon. Back to the East River. The air is a chaotic soup of tar, animal pelts, and spilled grain. Listen to the snap of ropes and the roar of a global crossroads. This is where the city's soul was truly born, on the docks where the world's goods were bartered for the world's secrets. As the sun sets on 1659, the Dutch are celebrating their wealth, unaware that their time as masters of this harbor is down to its final grains of sand. 1664. The harbor is electric with tension. 4 English warships sit like predators off the battery, their cannons trained on the heart of the town. Peter Stuyvesant, the man of iron, stands on the ramparts. He wants to fight, but the merchants want to live. There is no battle, only the quiet, tragic scratch of a pen on a surrender document. In that single moment, the world tilts. New Amsterdam dies, and New York is born. The flags change, the language shifts, but the engine, the hunger for trade, never misses a beat. The Dutch gables remain, but the masters are gone. The city had learned its first, most brutal lesson. In New York, commerce always outlives empire. By the end of the century, the name Mannahatta was a ghost, buried under English deeds and cobblestones. The harbor had dictated the fate of the island, and the small outpost was already screaming to break free of its walls. We are standing on the edge of a transformation that will turn this muddy pier into the capital of the world. But as the 17th century closes, a new, even more turbulent era is rising. One of imperial wars, pirate gold, and a city that will soon dare to challenge the very kings who claimed it. Class dismissed for today, but keep your eyes open. The harbor remains. The ghosts are still there. And the story? Oh, my students, the story is only just beginning.